All right. I want to get through the program as quickly as possible because after all that, we may have put a little stress on our battery and I don't want to run out of battery. So, hi, everybody, and thanks for coming and thank you for bearing with us. And for those who didn't and are watching this in a rerun, I don't blame you. So, but I'm glad you stuck with us. And we want to talk about the convertible collar that has a built-in collar stand. So if you can see this collar here, this is the one when we did our demonstration on Tuesdays at 2 on how to create a convertible collar out of a shirt that has a placket and a button-up placket on it. This way, there's no placket. It's just a self-facing. There's no collar stand, so it goes together really quickly. And and it's just a nice casual look. So that's what we did. Well, you'll see it on YouTube. It's on YouTube. I don't know if it was the last month, right? I think it was last month. So anyway, in the meantime, we had Eve or Ev, it's EV, she signs her name. So she asked for a specific type of collar. And if you saw the newsletter, you know what type of collar we're talking about. But what we're talking about is a collar that has a collar stand within the collar. So if you will, take a look at this. So this is a convertible collar from a coat that Brenda and I drafted a couple years ago. And what you have here is an interfaced collar stand. So we've put interfacing on the inside, and then this acts as a collar stand to keep the collar up nice. Now this has one in it, so I want you to kind of see how nice that stands up there. And it's got real nice sculpture and shape. So it's always going to stand up. It's not going to fall down. And a lot of ladies feel it almost gives them a facelift when the collar stays up in the back nice and high like that. It just gives a nice contour to the face. And it allows these collar to just uh, curl a little bit more. It's just a little different look. So either one's acceptable, but we had the request for this one, and we thought it'd be fun to add it to your uh, camp shirt conversion, if you will, that we did. So let's get started with how easy this is. So I took the collar from this shirt and traced it. Now we know we have a 1/4 inch seam allowance in a collar. You need this closer, or can you see it really well? Let me turn it this way. Okay. We know we're going to have a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around here. So we're going to have our collar stand, if you will. I'll show you again right next to this one. We want this stand to end just above the stitching. So we don't want it caught in the stitching. So I've made a placement line 3/8 of an inch above the cut edge. So that's 1/8 inch clearance between the stitching line and your stand. So if you can be very precise with that, this will work fabulous. So take your collar and go 1/8 above the stitching line, which is in this case 3/8. And then for the average size collar, I would say you want to go about 1 1/4 inches past the shoulder notch. So I've done that at both sides. The one I have here is a plus size, and it's 1 3/8 past the shoulder mark, just because it's just a little bit bigger. So you can kind of play with those, but uh, an eighth one way or the other isn't going to make a big difference. Okay. So then the next thing you want to know is where is the center of my collar? Because that's where you want the center vertically. because the collar is going to fold back, and I want my stand to be right there where it can fold back. So now you'll come above this placement line that you drew to that specific mark. In my case, it's 3/4 of an inch. And this stays nice and straight. And then you have to curve down to just where we made that mark of 1 1/4 inch past the shoulder. Now you might say, oh, I'm not really good at being making a smooth curve or something. So here's what I did. I just took a collar stand or a piece that was shaped similarly, and I used it by laying it against this line where I wanted, and I just traced it. And then I can turn it over and trace it on this side. Even though this is deeper than I need, all I want to do is get that nice curve right here. That's all I'm using this for. Okay, so now we know this is the center of our collar. It's the top of our collar stand. This is our placement line, so that's the bottom of our collar stand. So now all you need to do is take a piece of paper and trace this out of the collar. Trace it so that, and then label it. So I trace that and then cut it out. Everything should be labeled as always. You know, when you make your own pattern pieces, it's real easy to get lazy. But 2 months from now, when you find that piece and you don't know what it goes to, you'll be sorry. So be sure to label them. We're going to cut 2 of this interfacing. All right. So that's how you determine the shape and size and position of that collar stand. Let's see if there are any questions before I go to uh, the final step. Make sure everybody's with me on that one.
Rhymes with Bev. That's who wrote it.
Ev, okay. Hi, Ev. Thanks for the question. This was a perfect idea to bring this forward. It's a great solution for a collar to give it a little more integrity. Sometimes collars, like we have on the convertible collar, depending on the fabric and the amount of times it's been laundered, will end up falling very flat and not have any stand back there at all. So this is excellent to put into your collars. All right. Well, then, Brenda, we're going to just talk about setting it on the placement line. And I'll show you the one piece. Now you're going to do 2. Both of your collar pieces, you will mark the center, the shoulder mark, and then the distance of 1 1/4 past the shoulder mark, somewhere between 1 1/4 and 1 3/8. If you happen to be a very petite person, you may even have to bring that down a little bit more to 1 or 1 1/8. Okay, so we had that all marked and we drew that marking from our pattern right on to the interfacing. This is what I love about interface pieces because they're easy to mark. All right, so you're going to do that to both sides of your collar. You're going to interface your collar the way you would have per the fabric. So in the lawn, we only use the light and stable, but we use it on both sides. In a poplin or regular shirting cotton, I would probably use the medium shirt makers on one side of the collar and the light and stable on the collar facing. But in any case, whatever you decide to do, this is the piece that has to be firm. Unless you're working with an extremely fine silk, which I can't imagine why you'd want this kind of a collar in it, but you want to use a stiff interfacing. Now, this is the kind of interfacing they use in tuxedo shirts, in those collars that men want really stiff and starchy. This is the kind of interfacing, and we carry it. It's called Shirt Makers Firm. So this is the firmest, and you can really see how stiff it is just by the way I handle it. You could see that it holds its shape. It takes a lot of heat and a lot of steam. So if your iron doesn't steam a lot, you might want to use a press cloth with some moisture on it, but you want a lot of heat. This is a heavier fiber, heavier textile. It is a woven cotton interfacing, which is the best to use in shirting, by the way. But because it is a denser, getting through that and the glue side with the heat and steam takes more work than most interfacings. So I just wanted you to be prepared for that. And then the final thing you're going to do before you assemble your collar is edge stitch all the way around, all sides, all the way around. I start down here, and do you see how close that is on the edge stitching? Now I'm not sure.
Let me hold it up.
I'm not sure, but I'll turn it over. But it's right on the edge, ladies, right on the edge. But you do want to catch that edge. And then this is what it looks like on the right side. I'm just going to set that down. And again, then once you have your collar assembled, this one's not top stitched yet. Always top stitch your collars. Then you'll have that beautiful stand that will just automatically make your collar just sit so beautifully. You don't ever have to worry about putting any starch or sizing or anything on there. It's just going to sit nice. But again, the most important thing to remember as you create this piece is that it not get caught in that stitching. But you don't want it like 1/8 of an inch above the stitching, because then you're going to create a weak joint. And that's not going to give you the best collar. So that is a precise place. But if you place it at 3/8 and you stitch it 1/4, it'll be beautiful. Okay. So Brenda, check to see if there are any questions. And in the meantime, because now we're afraid our battery's going to run out.
Well, someone asked, is it a zigzag stitch?
No.
Oh, repeat it.
Oh, no zigzag stitch. Someone is asking about zigzag. I don't use zigzag ever. Unless I'm in a buttonhole. I have exciting news about my buttonholes too that I'll share next month. But no zigzag stitch, just a nice straight stitch. Now, for those of you who might be new, we construct garments with a 3 if you have that the newer all the more modern machines since 1950 or 60, I guess. Anyways, they had the metric, so it's a 3. Older machines was 11 to 12 stitches per inch. That's a perfect. But because so many people got excited about quilting is a 2 often. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a quilter. I've made a couple, but it's not my vocation. So then I find garment sewers stitching at a 2, no matter what fabric they're using, because they say, oh, I don't want it to tear out. Trust me, I've never sewn at a 2. I've always sewn at a 3 or larger, and I have never had a garment tear out ever. Even the shirts I make my husband, he doesn't manage to tear those either. So a 3 is fine. It'll give you a nice flat surface. It won't pull too tight. And with fashion fabrics, because we want them to drape and everything, getting too tight of a stitch is not a good idea. So about a 3. And you can see that it's a really just a nice clean stitch. Of course, you're not going to stitch it in white. I need to say that for anybody who's new. The only reason that I mark things or with a contrast or use a contrasting thread is so that you can see it on the camera and you're not straining to wonder what I'm talking about. So in essence, this is just a sample. This isn't going on a garment, because if it was, you wouldn't be able to see that stitching very well at all because it would match the fabric. Okay. So make sure though that you label your pieces and keep them together. This is called the convertible collar, and this is the stand. No fabric, just interfacing for the stand. So you're going to write on here, cut two interfacing, cut two fabric, cut two interfacing for the collar. All right, a couple other things I wanted to mention. We had the camp shirt conversion challenge, and we haven't gotten it up yet, so we apologize. We went through what we thought was going to be a simple, well, we didn't think it was going to be real simple, but we wanted to get rid of the ridiculous hoard of things that I've collected over 3 careers in the sewing industry. So I had garments and fabrics and hand-dyed fabrics and more fabrics and notions. I just found another 20 or 30 stitch rippers. So many things came from my career of doing the sewing expo. So we had lots of notions because we had all kinds of activities where people were sewing. So, anyways, we had that. We thought that would be easy and we'd be back right on par, and we're not. We're still sorting and organizing. So we're a little behind, but we're going to get those out. Each one of the people who participated in the challenge will receive a $20 credit in their account by the end of this week. Let's see. If you need it before, just holler. We'll take care of it. Okay, today there is the sale that was in the newsletter, and it is a smashing sale, particularly considering the subject we're on, shirts. So I thought, hey, I'm going to do a really big uh, doorbuster sale of 24% off anything to do with shirts. So that's shirt patterns, men's, women's, or youth. That's shirt kits, and that's shirting. So all of our shirting, which is 100% cotton, but we have several. We have lawn as well as poplin and chambray. Oh, it's got in some beautiful shades of chambray, even a pink. Hey Brenda, do you see that pink one? Pull that out and I'll show them. Is that carnation pink? Yeah. Um, so all of this is going to be 24% off. And the fun thing is the kits are already 20% off. So another 24% off for that. So here's the pink chambray that I think is just in the right. That's a beautiful shirting, especially if you want to make just a basic year-round shirt. If you're new and you want to make a shirt, this is a great fabric to start with. When you make your first shirt, please use the best quality shirting you can get. When you use a muslin or a very inexpensive fabric, the techniques cannot be accomplished as nicely. So when you get done, you don't feel quite that you've accomplished a good shirt or a good shirt technique, and you won't until you use a better fabric. It makes all the difference. So this would be good, and it comes in 4 different shades. I just thought I'd throw that out there. So the kits are a huge bargain. The shirting is as well as the patterns. If you have any questions, if you go to shop or you want to get some advice on where to start, or something more about the fabric, just let us know. Send us an email, islandersewing@comcast.net. Islandersewing@comcast.net. We answer every email. We don't always get to the phone calls right away. Yes?
I have a question.
Sure.
What is the difference between lawn and chambray?
Okay, the question that we have is the difference between lawn and chambray. Chambray is a very nice, firmly woven cotton, and it's what I would call a year-round weight or a mid-weight. A lawn is very tightly woven, but the yarns are extremely fine, which makes it even more breathable. We know cotton's breathable, but that lawn, they it began its popularity in Pakistan because how cool it is to wear. So it originated in that part of the world because of the heat. So that's what you want your lawn for. I don't wear my lawns in the winter. I don't because I get cold in the winter. I live in Michigan. So, but some people they're warm all year round, so maybe it would be a year round fabric for that person. Or you live in Arizona or Florida, you'll get a lot of use out of lawn. Okay, another question or no? Okay. All right. Now, I want to talk about that sale because we forgot to put the code in the newsletter. So here's the deal. The code is code 24. 24%. COD 24% sign. We'll post it, but it's going to take us a while to get the shirt kits on there. Do we have the shirting and the patterns on yet? No.
No.
Just wait till tomorrow. I think we'll have it done soon.
Yeah.
We'll make that a priority, get that done right away. So maybe give us an hour, you think? All right. Give us an hour after the program. And I know some of you are anxious to hear about the different things that we're going to have for sale that we didn't liquidate already. We started putting a few things on Etsy, right? Etsy. Etsy. So the Tibetan lamb skins are on Etsy, and the African mud cloth is on Etsy. So you can go take a look at those if you like. Um, we'll be posting some things on our website, some on Etsy, and we may put some on eBay. I don't know. We're just kind of feeling our way through it. But we've gotten rid of all the dress forms. I don't have any dress forms left, but you don't really want dress forms. Dress forms, you know what dress forms are good for? Dress forms are good for designing patterns on. And why you watch Islander Sewing Systems and a lot of other programs? Because you want to figure out how to make those patterns fit because they don't fit you. So the last thing you want is a dress form because you can't fit yourself on a dress form. That's why the patterns don't fit you. Dress forms were made specifically for garment production so that the manufacturers could do a 2, a 4, a 6, a 8, a 10, a 12 according to their own sizing. But they can't create enough patterns to fit us all because some of us have one shoulder longer than the other, one is higher than the other. Some of us have shoulders that go forward, some of us have rounded backs, like myself. Some of us are very round in the derriere, some of us don't have a derriere. That's me. So there's so many differences in your body that you wish you looked like the dress form. Oh man, do I wish I looked like the dress form, but we don't. Not to mention the proportions aren't right. So from the shoulder to the bust to the waist to the hip, chances of that being exact on anybody is 1 in 10 million. So anyway, no dress forms, but we have lots of other great stuff. We'll keep you posted, and we are going to do a slideshow of the camp shirt conversions, and we'll be posting that soon.
Then question.
Oh, okay. Another question.
What was the base pattern for the shirt behind you?
This one, I believe it is the sloper block for the designer shirt is called. So it's the sloper block that has darted. It's called the darted block. So that's the one I started with.
Oh, black and white. The black and white one, the coat.
Oh, that's the pattern that Brenda and I started a couple years ago, and we never got it into production. We may, it's, but no, we don't have that pattern. It's a long story to that one, but okay. All right, good. So take a look at the site. I've never had a sale this great before, so I think if you consider making shirts, this is a great time to take advantage of that sale. Shirts for Christmas. We even got some flannel shirting, and that is fabulous flannel. Not like your box store flannel. This is good quality flannel that doesn't shrink. You don't even have to pre-wash it. Wonderful stuff. Anyway, what was I going to say more about that? Shirts. Oh, that on YouTube, we have several shirt making videos. So you want to take a look at those. And even if you didn't buy weren't making the specific pattern, you'll still learn a lot of our techniques on how to make a beautiful shirt or jacket without any pins or basting. That's what we do best around here. Besides making a few patterns and teaching a few classes, we're working on some fitting things, but we just enjoy everything to do with sewing. So we really appreciate you joining us today. And again, for those of you who hung in there, boy, thank you so much. It was really crazy here. So thank you. We'll see you again next month and watch for the newsletter next week. Bye now.